Of course, sometimes it is very, very difficult to understand. So we try and make it in much more simpler terms, our life cycle. And you have to do it with me. Here we have an infected human being. This is an infected human being. The human being urinates, and as they urinate, they release eggs into the surface of the water. So these are the eggs. This one will be infected, and once in the water, the eggs will begin to hatch. Only they can hatch in the presence of water. So the water will help the eggs of this infected from the urine or feces to hatch as a result of water. And once they hatch, they will develop into something called melacidia. So they have undergone a change. They have developed into melacidium. And melacidium, you as a human being, you go along that surface of the water, you step in there, you won't be infected. Because the melacidium is not capable of penetrating your skin. But they will look for an alternative way. They're still trying to find out. They want to still infect human being when they come. How do we do this? Let us look for a snail. They will look for a freshwater snail, and a freshwater snail is something like this. I think you can bear with my drawing here. So this is a freshwater snail, and the melacidium, once inside the freshwater snail, will undergo a change. First, it will develop into something called sporocyst. And still inside, undergoing changes, mitoting, and as a result, it will develop into something called cicadia. Of course, plural is cicali. We remove A, we put double I, that is scali. But cicadia is one, singular. This cicadia, however, is the one which is capable of penetrating human beings. So here we have a cicadia, and the way the cicadia looks like is they look like this. They have got tails, such that they are capable of swimming freely along the surface of the water. So this is the cicadia. Depending on how you pronounce it, you can either pronounce it cecaria or cicaria. It doesn't matter as long as the spelling is quite okay. This cicadia has got the capability to penetrate the human being, the human skin. And what they do is, once they penetrate the human skin, they tend to release certain enzymes on the surface of the skin. And the other thing they do is they shed their tails. They lose their tails and penetrate human beings. So this is a susceptible human being. And once inside the human being, the cicadia develops into something called schistosomiasis. So inside the human being, they develop into schistosomiasis. I think I will light it this way. No, let me just light it here. So this is schistosomia inside the human body. And once they go inside the human body, they begin to circulate. They will target the liver, because in the liver, that is the only place where they can begin to reproduce and mature. So they will go into the liver. And in the liver, they develop into what we call adult flukes. So they are adult flukes. And adult flukes, once they begin to reproduce, they begin to travel to the GIT. From the liver, develop. After they develop, because they reproduce, after they start reproducing, they start traveling to GIT system and the urinary system. I think there is space. There is no space here. So the next one is the urinary system. So these are the systems that are going to be affected. And after that, the process begins again. This is what we call the life cycle of schistosomiasis. The life cycle of schistosomiasis. Once in the GIT, the cycle begins again. So the only way to prevent this, the only way to stop this is by interfering with this part. And this also part, but the most one is this one, eradication of water contaminated with snails. And of course we can avoid swimming in lakes contaminated with snails, because we can get that infection. That infection can only, that disease can only be spread through these snails. So if we are to bring the, we are to eradicate the water which is contaminated with these snails, or if we are to kill all the snails in the water before we swim in there, then we can interfere with this part and prevent this type of infection, schistosomiasis, one of the deadly infection. It is quite deadly infection, of course.